a lot of the stuff that we wear comes up in conversation, right?
Hmm.
And that's the other aspect for me about wearing a watch. One is that what you feel about the watch. The other aspect is just the social angle. Like the watch you're wearing right now, I'm sure that's a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah, so this is something which was on my wish list for the longest time. And like you mentioned, the investment banking reference, I've been saving up for this watch for a long time. So for me, collecting a watch is not something that is very impromptu. If I really need to buy a watch, I put it on my wish list. I start saving for it. So this is something which was on my list a couple of years back, and I could manage to buy this one last year.
Tell us about it.
This is a Panerai Luminor Duet. This is one brand that is really sort of in my list of favorites. And what I feel about this one is the dial is pretty versatile. So Luminor is anyways my favorite in terms of, Radio Mir versus Luminor when it comes to Panerai. So always wanted to own a Luminor, but I was always confused with, what dial color should I go for. This is slightly versatile because like you see, I've changed the strap right now. So it can easily fluctuate between a casual and a formal watch.
Yeah, I think on the YouTube channel we'll put pictures of this. It's a pretty interesting
Correct, and it's a 42mm. So again fits my wrist pretty well because if you see earlier, the Panerai watches were really chunky.
Yeah.
They still are, in certain categories. But this introduction of a new 42mm size was something that really got me attracted to this one.
Since we've spoken about the manual aspect of the watch, I quickly want to tell people about the kinds of watches out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about digital watches here, but in the realm of regular watches, you have manual, automatic, and quartz.
Correct.
So for whoever's listening, quartz is an electronic regulated watch. It's got a battery. It's more accurate than your manual watches. It's much cheaper, but a lot more accurate. And in the enthusiast world, a lot of times quartz watches could be looked down upon. Do you have any quartz in your collection?
I do. In fact, the first Tagore I sort of purchased was a quartz. And I think when you purchase watches in the category 50,000 and less, INR 50,000 and less, more or less, they are in the quartz category.
Yeah.
So,
and I've got a few quartz watches which I really, really like. The Timex Q is one of them.
Yes.
That's on both of our lists coming up later.
Absolute favorite.
And I have the Bape watch, which I really like.
That I couldn't get my hand on. This is the Swatch.
Bape and Swatch collab.
Yeah.
I got it easily.
I got a little late to get that one, yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of times you might get this notion that quartz is looked down upon, which genuinely in this hobby it kind of is. But there's a time and place for every sort of mechanism here.
But an interesting story that I read recently, I believe in Rolex at one point had come up with a quartz.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do, but this is back in the 60s or the 70s when they did come up with a quartz watch. I think it was the Oyster.
Even Reverso has a quartz.
Even Reverso has a quartz.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this look down upon factor I think is maybe on paper.
Also the quartz, so the Japanese pioneered the quartz movement, and it somewhere just brought a lot of panic to the Swiss side of things.
Yeah.
Almost collapsed the whole watch making
industry. Because the
industry.
Japanese like accuracy, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, they're more accurate.
Yeah.
So.
So basically on a quartz watch, you use a battery. It's a lot more accurate. But on a self-winding, which is an automatic watch or a manual winding watch, you have a physical mechanism that's doing the actual timekeeping. So they're not the most accurate, but you can actually sometimes feel the watch on your wrist beating.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part of it.
That's the fun part of it, yes.
Cool. Getting into building out a watch collection. Now, I think watches can be very intimidating for a lot of people, even to start off with price points. And if the moment you hear about building out a collection, people think you'll have to spend lakhs and lakhs and lakhs to even do that. Now, at least for me, when it comes to building a collection, you can do it with 2 watches, you could do it with 5. But your basic 3 styles, at least for me, dress watch, sports, like a diver, one fun, random watch.
Correct.
What would it be for you?
So when it comes to a dress watch, right, I would go for something like a Tissot or a Casio Edifice.
Sorry, in this I don't want to get into brands, but I want to get your view. Like, would you do the same thing?
Okay, that way. Yeah. Correct. So when it comes to watches, like you said, like you rightly said, a dress watch is extremely important for someone like me,
Oh yeah,
who is
definitely.
a professional, right? So I need to have the dress watch on me through the day when I'm working or when I'm attending an event, right? But the fun part, the diverse watch, is something that is inherent to me because I come from a sports background, and most of us, I think, when you're not working, it's I think it's great to have a sports watch or a diverse watch on your wrist. So that is something which most boys would probably understand, that that little chunky watch on your wrist. That
Yeah, and that's also what saved the Switch watch industry. Just going back to the whole quartz panic that the industry had because of the Japanese.
yeah,
The steel sports watch is what also saved the Swiss watch industry. So
it has
a
absolutely.
little more stylish, a little more sporty, essential in your collection.
Yeah, correct. And when it comes to a fun watch, I think it's a mix of, again, both for me. There are some dress watches which, something like a collaboration watch. Where,
Yeah.
say a Timex coming up with a nice fancy collaboration with a Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And that's a fun watch for me. I wouldn't wear it through the year, but once in a while I would like to have that on
Even
my wrist.
the Timex does the Pac-Man watch as well.
Yes.
And that's a fun watch to
that's
have.
a fun watch. Or for that matter, I mean, a smartwatch is not really a watch, but I would put it in the fun category if I really want to
Actually, that's true.
have a fancy dial, which I can keep changing.